This video presentation is made possible by Brewster Services Group.
Meeting for September 10th to order. Everybody will stand. We'll have our prayer and pledge. One of our board members coming in on telephone, Mr. Cusick. Mr. Cusick, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay. You start hollering, he's at a baseball game watching his son play. So don't get too rowdy and don't cuss out here because it hurts Newman's feelings.
I'll do my best.
All right, let's pray. Father God, we thank you for the day that you've given us, Lord. Father, I just ask that you lead and guide us through this meeting, Father. Father, lift up our teachers, our staff, our students. Just keep them safe and just let them know we're thinking about them and we're praying for them. Father, lift up tomorrow, 9/11, Father. Don't let us forget everything that happened, Father. Lift up the family that were left behind from that day, Father, and all the heroes that lost their lives, Father. Just don't let us forget. And Father, just bring us back together as a nation, Father. Father, there's a lot of love that's been lost here lately, and it seems like it's getting colder and colder. I just ask you just wrap us up and bring us all closer together. Let us come as one, Father. Father, I thank you for all the blessings you put upon us. Just lead and guide us through this meeting. That's all these things in your name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Got a motion from Mr. Newman, second by Mr. Jenkins. Any discussion? You roll call.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Moffitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bridges? Yes. Mr. Ridings?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Cusick?
Yes.
Mr. Presley?
Yes. All right, now it's time to recognize any visitor. Talk about anything that is on the agenda. Yes, ma'am. Come up, state your name, please.
My name is Lynn Greer, and I'm not going to get on top of that microphone because I know you all can hear me without it. What I'd like to discuss is Chairman. I love you, Bobby. I do. You're a nice guy. How many times did you miss meetings this year as chairman?
I think 2. Well, being sick with COVID, I didn't count that.
That would be the one in August?
July. When is July?
And you missed August Thursday night and you were voting Friday morning.
Friday morning?
Mm-hmm. You missed the meeting on Thursday night, and Tammy was sitting right there across the street when you went bebopping into early vote the next morning.
Oh, yeah.
So
that was after my quarantine. I went to the doctor, and that's when my quarantine ended. You are right, voting. I thought you meant down here.
I'm always right.
I'm going to go with that.
Okay, so.
That's when my quarantine ended. Yes.
Okay. The other problem that I have is that you keep moving workshops to the night of the school board meetings.
That wasn't just me. That was the board. We kept it to keep it where we were doing with the COVID again. That's not something I want to do regularly at all. And that's not something they want to do regularly either, because I don't give us time to discuss and go over what we.
And it doesn't give us time to mull over what you are thinking about doing.
But it's been different because of the COVID. And we usually have our meeting up at
right, the annex, and I
here, and that's the only reason why it was different.
And I understand why this is.
Yeah. That's it, though. I mean, there were no other excuses.
But you're not going to continue on that path.
I didn't want to get to COVID either, but I did.
Well, now you don't have to worry about it anymore, you see.
I'm not sure that's right either.
Well, let's just pretend it's right. And that's really the only thing that I had was, I love you to death, but I hadn't been thrilled by...
That, in June, July, I was with the COVID.
August.
I missed a month's worth of work with it and was quarantined that whole time till it ended. Okay. And then I made it to the meeting, and he knew the whole time because I called and told him what was going on.
Okay. Well.
Now, I could have come. Didn't have to tell nobody, just show up, but I thought it'd be the right thing to do to stay home.
Were you on the phone? I don't recall you being on the phone.
No, I felt terrible. There wasn't going to be no phone. It was awful.
He couldn't even eat.
Couldn't even eat. That's how bad it was.
Oh my God, no.
Yes.
That's the only thing that I really had to say about anything that's on there.
No, other than that, I
Okay.
should be good.
I'm taking you at your word.
Yeah, as long as I don't get sick.
Okay. All right.
You didn't even call and check on me.
I'll have your phone number.
You'll have it by the other time.
You might want to check with him, make sure that he didn't just say that for the audience.
He did call and check on me, though.
Did he?
Yeah.
Bless him. What do you want?
Just check on me. He loves picking on me. Is anybody else? Miss Hunter?
My name is Pat Hunter. I hope you can hear me and I don't sound muffled. I would like a point of clarification. At the county commission meeting, they discussed and voted on a pay raise for county employees. They were supposed to wait till December, but they didn't do that. Then there was a discussion of giving the teacher pay raises, which county commission cannot do, only this body can do. And I think they were going to either send a request to this board to consider it, and just for clarification, it's not going to come up for discussion or a vote since it wasn't discussed at a workshop.
Correct, it won't come up to say.
Okay, thank you.
I will have it in my director's report, but it's not on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. The other thing is, with regards to the board chairman and the vice chairman, I would like for you to consider Mr. Brian Brown as the chairman. He was, I don't know if you noticed, but he was the highest vote getter of all the elected officials in the school board races. He's been vice chair before, but he's never made it chair. So I wish you would consider him. And then also, for vice chair, I would like for you to consider a very capable and able person, and that's Ms. Bridges. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter. Any other visitors? Wish to talk? All right, seeing none, when we write down election of school board chairman, I will now turn it over to our director and step back, let him take nominations.
I will open up the floor for nominations for school board chairman.
I think things are going pretty good the way they are, and I'd like to nominate Bobby Johnson, Jr.
I have a nomination for Bobby Johnson, Jr. Any other nominations for school board chairman? Seeing none. I don't guess do we have to vote since it's...
Yeah, you got to roll.
Still
you got to vote.
roll call?
Yeah.
Roll call.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Please call that.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Moffitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bridges? Yes. Mr. Ridings?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Cusick?
Yeah.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
I'll turn the meeting back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Got something going on in the baseball game there. All right, open the floor for election of vice chairman.
Like I said, I think things are going pretty good. I think Kenny does a good job to step in, and even though he's walking with a limp today, he made his motion. Kenny Ridings for vice chair.
He tried taking it out.
Any other nominations? All right. Can you roll call that, please?
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Moffitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bridges? Yes. Mr. Ridings? Yes. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Cusick?
Yes.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
All right, moving on to consent agenda.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Newman, second. Mr. Jenkins, any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Ms. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Riding?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Cusick?
Yes.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Mr. Newman? Mr. Newman?
You got that right.
Well, yes.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes. Thanks, Jim. Don't take much to knock him off track. All right, moving on, policy updates, first reading.
Everything's as it was with the board workshop, with the exception of policy 6.3041 at the recommendation of the policy committee. They asked me to run that by legal counsel, which I did, and he added a couple of sentences that were minor edits dealing with essentially where we won't interfere with the police investigation, which we do not anyway, and then clarifying interviewing of minors. So I would recommend that the board adopt all those policies as the policy committee and workshop, we went through those.
I'll make a motion to approve them all on first reading.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Brown, second by Mr. Cusick. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Riding?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Cusick?
Yes.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
All right, moving on to budget amendments. Any changes from the workshop?
No changes from the workshop.
Make a motion that we approve the amendments.
Got a motion by Mr. Jenkins.
Second.
Got a second by Ms. Harvey. Approve the amendments. Roll call, please.
Mr. Riding?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Cusick?
Yes.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Ms. Bridges?
Yes.
All right, moving on to grants.
And I do just have one update on that. Mr. Brown, you'd asked me at the workshop. We did receive state approval this week on both the LEA reopening grant and the Safe Schools grant. So if the board approves those, we're ready to roll.
I'll make a motion, we approve the grants that's been presented.
Got a motion from Mr. Brown to approve the grants.
Second.
Got a second from Ms. Bridges. Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Cusick?
Yes.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett? Ms. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Riding?
Yes. All right, moving on, North Middle School mowing baseball field. Turn it over to Mr. Jenkins.
After talking with Mike Hickman, I brought up to him about the $500, and he said that he would be willing to do that whenever we need it mowed so we can do the field conditioning. And during the season, he said he would mow it a couple times a week for us. That way it's playable and looks presentable whenever other people are coming to our field. I want to make a motion that we donate $500 not only to North Middle's program, but also to Philadelphia's as well.
What minute you want to put it in as a budget item, or?
Yeah, do it as a donation to the
I mean, it's got to run the baseball team. So
Yeah, send it to the baseball team, and then the baseball team will be the ones that pay it out to the...
They're not the only ones that play baseball.
Hold on, we got a motion. We got a second.
I'll second it, just before you discuss it.
Got a second by Mr. Newman. Now, discuss. Go ahead, Mr. Moffett.
They're not the only two that's got a middle school baseball program.
Hey, you know what? I'd like to add an amendment to his budget, to his amendment to his motion, that we give Greenback $500 also. But the question is, where are we going to get it out of?
He's sitting back here.
It'd be a total of $1,500, it sounds like.
What is the purpose of the money? You said it's
Field maintenance.
Field maintenance, it'd be for mowing the ball fields.
It's like a mowing supplement.
We're paying a specific person for that?
For with North Middle, it would be Mike Hickman or the...
If we're paying a specific person, I think we would treat that just like we do the other field maintenance supplements.
The question will be then is, say the other schools, you know, like Mr. Curtis, he's like, hey, maybe I want to get some seed or
It would probably be my recommendation if the board's wanting to do that, to allow Chad to add 500. We give the athletic, we give them travel money, so we could give them $500 extra that they could move where they need to use it. And if they need to do it for personnel, then they need to do it through our stipend system like we do the others. So if they do want to use a person, they need to do it that way. If not, then we could just increase what we give them for athletics by $500, if that pleases the board. That would probably be the easiest for us.
I don't think we can cut a check Philadelphia.
Can you do it for?
We can add it to our budget and they can make purchases through our current budget, or we can pay a person $500 as a field maintenance supplement.
Did we get a price from ground control?
It was $60 a cut, so it'd be about $1,000 for the season. Yeah, depending on the wind, like we talked about, the $60 a cut.
I have a question. So last week when we had the discussion, I thought Mr. Hickman couldn't mow, and that was the issue why we were going.
Whenever you throw money involved to it, then I guess things change. I don't know.
I think that looks bad.
I thought that was what, I mean, I could be all.
It's not our facility, technically.
Sure.
And I had, Mr. Presley did check with our current contractor, and he was going to charge $60 a cut, which would be about $1,000 for the season, so.
I think Mr. Hickman's he's not cutting it now, he's going to cut it during the season.
He'll cut it during the season, but he normally, as he said, he only cuts it once a week.
But he'll cut it during the season.
He will cut it extra.
That's not cutting it now, though.
No.
Yeah, so that's like you were talking at the workshop, those, 3-4 months? Right there.
So then you would have time for us, if you decide to do this, we could add it in a budget amendment for next month for you all to approve, and if you decide to do it. If you don't decide to do it, we won't.
I'm just confused.
Is this in addition to ground control?
No, it's separate.
Ground control doesn't do anything at that facility for us currently.
That was what the quote was for $60 per cut. They were going to do once per week.
If we added it for them to do it.
Yeah, we come out of the workshop where they were going to get with ground control and ask him how he do it, and then he was going to get with Mike Hickman out there as he runs the Ruatan field or whatever it is.
Because I thought his thing was he couldn't mow, and that's why we were discussing it.
No, he said he would do it one time.
So he's wanting $500 just for the same that what he was doing for free.
Now he will do it more than one time.
I think we discussed at the workshop, though.
He wants paid to do it a second time, I think.
At the workshop, did we not discuss, though, that start cutting it now? Was that not right?
No, he's already cut it. He's already cut it once a week.
Well, I mean, cut it twice now.
But he also said during this time, whenever it's time for us to do the field maintenance that we got to do, adding the seed and fertilizer and aerating and stuff like that, the grass has got to be cut real low. He said he'll come in and do the extra cuttings too.
But it'll be during the season.
Starting in November.
Baseball season.
But I thought he didn't have time to do it. That was his purpose. Am I right? I mean, I'm just trying to get back on the right.
That's what he had said originally, yes.
I thought that he couldn't cut it right now.
That there was no time for him to do it, so someone else was.
I think he was doing it once.
I think it's between him and 3 other guys that
he didn't have enough time. That was the thing. That's what I thought he said.
Well, then who's going to be paid?
Whatever that club's called, the Ruatan Club.
They'll be paying the Ruatan.
It'll be going to the Ruatan Club.
So either he or another member of the Ruatan Club will be responsible for cutting it twice a week when we're in baseball season.
Yes.
And then in the off season, doing that field maintenance for the seeding and everything to make for it.
Would it be easier instead of, I know, I like what he's just trying to give everybody a little bit of something, but would it be easier for us to say we're going to put $500 into a budget to give to, what was it, the Ruatan? It's called the Ruatan for maintenance.
I just think that puts us back where we started because we have a contracted service to do lawn care.
On our properties though, that's not our property.
That's not our property.
County property based on the property assessor's website.
And do we not pay the utility bill?
Yes, we added that.
Do we pay it for the whole complex or just that one field?
I don't think it's separated, so I think it's I would have to check. I don't know for certain.
No, we've got a lot of money in that field. I mean, because I think they've done a lot of good work to it.
They have, so I can't.
We put like $15,000 in it.
Yes, they are, again, apparently, yes.
That was the other question.
What was your question, Bob?
Out of that workshop, because we were discussing if they were still a club, and Brian said that they were. So we left out there before they was.
According to what I've gathered, yes, they are.
Okay, well, here's my thing. We're going to do it for them. We're going to do it for Philly. Now, Greenback. What's Fort Loudon High School going to get?
Well, Loudon High School, we're already giving $1,500 to them to do field maintenance.
Fort
Loudon's combined with Philadelphia.
They got
Not the softball field.
Lord, we've opened up a whole can of worms.
We already.
I say we look for volunteers to mow, and we just say, be done with this.
Well, normally in sports, parents step up. I mean, just, Lord knows I called volleyball games. I didn't have a clue, and I think I called some of those wrong based on what the coaches looked at me.
But here's the thing about those parents step up.
So I don't know.
It's the same parents from the time they're 6 to the time they graduate. And then you got people that come back, like Mike, that don't have any kids, and he comes back and does that stuff. I think that as a board, we need to take care of this. I know this is a separate entity, and it's not really, I don't think it's ours, really. I mean, we've got money in it, but I think that we need to just back up, put the $500 to make sure we're making sure these kids have got a good place to play baseball. And then if Fort Loudon, if Brian and all them come to us and say, hey, we need this, or we would like this, let's vote on that then. But this is, I say we just, and I like what he's trying to say is give everybody something, but like Brian said, just open up a can of worms. Let's take care of this issue. Of course, when we vote on it, we know what's going to happen because, we all, some coaches here, we're going to come down here and say, well, I want this too, and we'll just hit that when it comes. But I'd say we take care of whatever it needs to take care of this bunch, and then instead of looping everybody into one, because if Greenback's not asked for nothing and nobody's asked for anything, why go without? I mean,
I would dare say that if that field needed to be mowed before they could play ball, it would get mowed.
Yeah.
I know Brian spends about $1,000 a year on seed.
Yeah.
So
see, that's the issue. We got a guy in Philadelphia that essentially treats it as his own, and we got parents at Greenback that try to keep up, and they can't keep up. Everybody does their own thing. If you're going to do for one, you need to do for all, and we need a comprehensive. We've talked about this for years, and we just keep beating our head against the wall.
Well, I agree. People, but this is the same bunch that wanted. I remember playing on that when I coached middle school baseball, and it was a field that would look. It was a hay field, and that's about all it was. And then Mike and them went there and put all that money into it, and we've put a big chunk of money into that field. And we could start right now and never get Brian paid back for all he's done down in Philadelphia.
I understand that. That's what I'm trying to say. There ought to be a way to be able to do better with what we're doing.
But if I'd just say unless they come and ask for it, let's not go out here and just start.
They don't have a problem coming and ask for it. It's just
I know you're kind of democratic over there, but that's
okay. You brought up an amendment. You didn't get a second for your
right.
So
I'll second your amendment. He seconded my amendment.
Read that amendment back off.
Who seconded?
Mr. Jenkins.
It was adding Greenback 500 to their program in addition to North Middle and Philly. Because his original motion was for North Middle and Philly.
I changed my mind. I'm taking it back.
You're withdrawing it?
You withdrawing it?
Yeah. Did I second his motion?
No, you made them.
No, I second his motion too. I take my second back too. I just say we just give $500 to finally.
So we got a motion.
So you're making that in a motion?
No.
So what's the motion?
My motion is you give them $500, and if somebody else wants something, tell them to come.
Hold on.
No, I took my motion back.
All right, hold on. You taking your amendment back?
I took my amendment back.
And you're taking your motion back.
His second.
Second.
My second back.
Okay, he took everything back. So Will, you need a second.
So you're making a motion just for North Middle?
No, we got a motion.
There's nothing.
I'll take my motion back.
Okay, now, you want to make a motion, sir?
I make a motion we give North Middle $500.
put in baseball?
To put into baseball. But we gotta make sure that goes to baseball.
No, go to baseball.
So.
All right, got a motion, Mr. Newman, to put $500 in baseball, North Middle School. Get that, Chad? Second by Mr. Jenkins. Any discussion?
So it is for North only, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's fine. And this can be used for just mowing?
That's all we're using it for is mowing.
Look, I was gonna sound crazy, but when's the season start?
February.
How much mowing are we doing? I mean, you see what I'm saying? I don't want to lock in if you're gonna do. I'm more opposite of what you had.
But we're not gonna pay him unless he mows, right?
Yeah, I guess, unless he mows.
I don't know. Sound to me like we're gonna make a $500 donation to Rutan. And then they can do.
No, we can't make donations.
Well, they're going to fund the baseball program, and they're going to give him $500. They're not going to pay him after every time he mows.
At the end of the season, give him the money.
Man, this stuff like this don't happen down this end, Ken. We don't argue about it.
Call it. Let's go.
No more discussion.
What all schools have a mower?
Yeah, but we're looking.
The high school softball does not.
This is just a unique situation because that's not on a school campus. So
it's not our property either.
Right.
And whoever, I mean, if we get a mower, they're going to have to trailer a mower in. Then you're going to have to buy a trailer.
Yeah.
And then if you give, a pig a pancake or whatever, then.
Sounded like a kid right there.
Say voted.
All right, any more discussion? You roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
No.
Ms. Harvey?
No.
Mr. Cusick?
Yes.
Mr. Presley?
No.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Moffitt?
No.
Ms. Bridges?
No.
Mr. Ridings?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
I'll say yes.
Stop.
All right, failed. Failed. 5-5, right? Okay. All right. Moving on to director's report.
And I had mentioned this at the workshop, but just to mention again, all the kids in the county are eligible for free breakfast and free lunch now through at least, hopefully through the end of December, if USDA can maintain funds through that amount of time. Friday, Mr. Tinker and myself delivered 380 air purifiers to all the teachers in the schools, so those are all in the classrooms, and the teachers are very appreciative of the board's efforts, so I appreciate the board stepping up. That's a $100,000 expense that the board didn't have to do, but I think you've made our schools and our teachers feel a lot more safer, a lot more comfortable, and I think that's going to make a big difference, so I appreciate that. And Mr. Presley is in the process of applying for a FEMA reimbursement. We don't know if we'll get any money back on that, but we are trying to do that as well. The commission meeting a couple of nights ago, they did give county employees raises, and if you recall, when we went down and presented our budget, we asked if they gave county employees a raise, that they'd consider giving school board employees a raise. So I think that was brought up in a motion. It didn't get voted on, I do not believe. Correct, Mr. Tinker? That's correct. And then Miss Blair, Tracy Blair, Finance Director, is trying to find a revenue source to see how all that would work if they could give us money for raises. So Mr. Presley is working on numbers to give Ms. Blair for their next budget committee meeting on what a 1%, a 1.5%, or a 2% raise would look like. So depending upon the revenue that Ms. Blair can find, if they can find revenue, I think the motion was for a 1.5% raise at commission. So at some point, we will bring an amendment to you if they can produce revenue for us to do raises, then I'd bring an amendment to you to pass that money on through for raises. But right now, we're not going to do a budget amendment because we don't have the revenue from the county to be able to do an amendment, if that makes sense. So as I learn things, I'll keep you informed. But hopefully, the county commission will be able to follow through with what they were trying to do the other night. That's dependent upon what Ms. Claire can find out on her end as far as what source of money and all of that. But I think that's positive that they're still considering that request on our part. So I appreciate that. Anybody have any questions on that?
I just have a quick, I guess Matthew can probably clear this up. That was my understanding that one of our commissioners, they voted for a 2.5% for the county employees and just a 1.5% for our teachers.
They approved a 2.5% raise for county employees, and the motion for teachers was a 1.5%. Those numbers were very similar to what they were talking about last year, because a 2% raise for county employees was about the same amount of money as a 1% raise for the Board of Ed.
That answers my questions right there. That's why I was wondering why the
When theirs went up to 2.5%, the request for BOE went from 1 to 1.5%.
Okay. So it wouldn't hurt us to ask for 2.5%, though, would it?
I suggested 5. Didn't work out.
Well, thanks for fighting for us, Mr. Tinker.
Last thing I have is I appreciate the support. I appreciate your support. I know these are challenging times. I feel like the school year is going well so far. I'm pleased with what our teachers, our administrator, our staff are doing, and it is my intention to stay open as long as I can stay open. The only thing that would cause me to close at this point is if I run into staffing issues because we are short subs, or if the health department, works with me and says, hey, you need to look at this spot over here. We need to take another look. So, because I know there may have been a little buzz out there that we were thinking about going remote. I'm not thinking about going remote. So, but I appreciate what the board is doing, appreciate your support. And I think we've, to make it to Labor Day, we've done pretty well so far, and fall break's just about 4 weeks away. So, and I appreciate the board not altering our calendar, because I think all our kids and our teachers are going to need that fall break, because it's been a tough 4 or 5 weeks. So. Appreciate you. Thanks, Bobby.
Hey, thank you all for the job y'all done. It's crazy. Y'all done a great job. Thanks the board, too. It's been crazy for everybody. I know y'all been getting a lot of calls, too. Y'all done a good, this whole thing's been tough, but everybody's done a great job. Even Brian. Anybody else got anything?
I'd like to say shop in Loudon County, because we need it on tax dollars.
Absolutely. All right, seeing none, got a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Got a motion, Mr. Newman, second. Mr. Preston? Or is that Mr. Brown?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye. Aye.
This video presentation is made possible by Brewster Services Group.